I want to tell you about a buyer who wrote 13 offers on Richmond homes before we ever spoke. That's not me misspeaking. 13 offers, all while relocating from out of state. They had an agent, their budget was real, their timeline was serious, and they were motivated enough to keep trying after loss after loss. Eventually, someone pointed them in my direction. We talked through what had been happening, changed the approach, and wrote one offer together. They got the house. I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you because 13 lost offers usually is not just bad luck. In most cases where I see an out-of-state buyer struggling in Richmond, the problem is bigger than the offer price. Something is missing from the process before the offer ever gets written. Maybe the buyer does not fully understand the local pace. Maybe the offer looks strong on paper, but is not structured for this market. Maybe the neighborhood, inspection risk, commute, or property condition has not been evaluated clearly enough because everyone is moving too fast. From out of state, those gaps can get expensive very quickly. Buying a Richmond home from another state is absolutely doable. I help people do it all the time. But it has to be done with the right process. You need better information than a listing description. You need more than a pretty video tour. You need local guidance that understands how Richmond actually works, because this market is not just one big search area with the word Richmond attached to it. I was born and raised here. I've watched this area grow and change my entire life. And I know the difference between what looks good online and what actually works once you live here. In this video, I'm walking through what I would never skip when helping an out-of-state buyer: the due diligence that protects you, the Virginia-specific rules that can surprise you, and the Richmond home issues that do not always show up in the listing photos. If you're serious about buying here from another state, watch this before you write your first offer. Hey y'all, I'm Holly, and I help people relocate to the Richmond, Virginia area with a clearer understanding of the city, the counties, the neighborhoods, and the actual buying process. Out-of-state buyers have a different challenge than local buyers. You may not be here for every showing. A home might hit the market on a Thursday, have showings all weekend, and be under contract before you can get on a plane. That means your process has to be stronger before the right house appears. You need to know where you're looking. You need to know what matters in the offer. You need to understand how inspections work here, what Virginia does and does not require from sellers, and what kinds of home issues are normal in this climate. Because once you're emotionally attached to a house, it gets harder to slow down and think clearly. Let's start with the part that changed everything for the buyer who had already written 13 offers. The reason that buyer finally won was not because the 14th house was magically easier. The difference was local strategy. Richmond is hyper-local, and I know people say that about every market, but here it really matters. The Richmond Metro includes multiple localities: Henrico, Chesterfield, Hanover, Goochland, City of Richmond, and several others. Those areas do not all move the same way. A competitive offer in Short Pump may need a different structure than one in Ashland. Chesterfield buyers may be dealing with different inventory patterns than Hanover buyers. A home in the City of Richmond can bring up a completely different set of questions than a home in Western Henrico. That specificity matters even more when you're buying from out of state, because your decision window is usually shorter. You're often relying on a live video tour, a neighborhood drive, your agent's eyes, local data, inspection guidance, and your own instincts all at once. If the person guiding you treats Richmond like one simple market, you're already working with limited information. The buyers who wrote 13 offers were not lazy. They were not unserious. Their offers just did not have enough Richmond-specific context behind them. Once the process changed, the outcome changed too. That's what I want you to understand before you start writing offers here. Winning from out of state is not about panic. It's about preparation, local knowledge, and knowing what to check before the pressure hits. Here's the Virginia-specific reality that surprises a lot of out-of-state buyers. When you submit an offer in Virginia and that offer is accepted, you are under contract. That's not just an expression of interest. It's not a casual hold on the property while you decide how serious you are. There is no simple change your mind period where you can walk away just because you slept on it and felt differently the next morning. Your contract terms, contingencies, deadlines, earnest money, and due diligence all matter. Virginia is also a buyer beware state. That means the responsibility to investigate the property is a major part of the buying process. You cannot assume every material issue will automatically be handed to you in a neat disclosure packet. You need to ask the right questions, use the right contingencies, and take the inspection process seriously. For an out-of-state buyer, this changes everything. You should feel genuinely comfortable with the house before you write the offer, not just excited about the pictures. You should understand what you are agreeing to before the contract is signed. You should also have a plan for what needs to be verified quickly if your offer is accepted. This is not meant to scare you. It's meant to keep you from treating a legally binding contract like a casual next step. If you're coming from another state, the rules and norms may not match what you experienced the last time you bought a home. That's exactly why local guidance matters before you're already under pressure. Richmond is still competitive for the right homes. Well-priced homes in good condition, especially in areas with strong buyer demand, can move quickly. For an out-of-state buyer, that pace creates a very specific problem. You cannot always fly in for every showing. You may be comparing homes from a distance, trying to make decisions through video, and decided whether to write an offer before you have physically walked through the front door. That can work, but only if the homework has already been done. You need to know your target areas before the house appears. You should understand your commute options, your county preferences, your budget comfort zone, your non-negotiables, and the property issues you are willing to take on. Trying to figure all of that out after you fall in love with a listing is where the stress starts. The buyers who do well from out of state usually have clarity before the right home hits the market. They're not learning the county structure while the offer deadline is 3 hours away. They are not debating whether the commute works after the listing agent says highest and best is due tonight. They've already narrowed the search. Then when the right house appears, the decision is still fast, but it's not frantic. That's the goal. If you're buying in Richmond from out of state and you want someone who tours homes this way, I would love to help you start with the right process. I put together a free Richmond relocation guide to help you understand the area before you make a decision. You could get that through the link in the description or scan the QR code here and have the guide sent directly to your inbox. You could also grab a time on my calendar here for a real conversation about your timeline, your budget, and what needs to happen before you start writing offers. The point is not to pressure you into anything. It is a practical conversation so you can make a smarter move. Okay, let's keep going. A real video tour for an out-of-state buyer should not feel like a listing commercial. It should feel like you sent someone you trust into the house with your exact priorities in mind. When I tour for an out-of-state buyer, I usually do it live on FaceTime or Zoom. That way, you're not waiting for a recorded walkthrough later and wondering why I did not turn left in the hallway or open the closet you cared about. You're there with me in real time. If you want me to stop, zoom in, open something, go back to a room, check a corner, step outside, or look at the shed, we do it right then. That live interaction matters because your questions get answered in the moment. A listing photographer is hired to show the house at its best. My job is different. I want you to understand the house honestly. That means I'm looking under the sink. I'm checking the electrical panel. I'm looking at the water heater. I'm paying attention to crawl space access, signs of moisture, the age of major systems, storage, layout quirks, odors, light noise, and anything that may not photograph clearly. Whatever is important to you. The area around the house matters too. I may drive the neighborhood, show you the surrounding streets, point out what is behind the property, and help you see whether there is something nearby that the listing photos did not reveal. Sometimes the house looks great online, but the setting changes the way you feel about it. Before any of that happens, I want to know what matters most to you. If your dog needs a secure fence, we're looking closely at the fence. If storage is a major concern, I'm opening closets and spending time in the garage. If remote work depends on a quiet room, we're paying attention to where that room sits in the house. If yard privacy matters, I'm not just showing you the patio. I'm showing you what you actually see when you're standing there. A good video tour is not generic. It should be built around your life. Now let's talk about the physical reality of Richmond area homes. This is where out-of-state buyers can be surprised. Many Richmond area homes have crawl spaces instead of basements, especially older homes, but you will see them in newer construction too. If you're coming from the Midwest to the Northeast or another market where full basements are common, this can be an adjustment. Virginia's climate also makes crawl space moisture an important topic. Humidity, heat, and airflow can create conditions where moisture issues or microbial growth show up. That does not mean you should avoid every home with a crawl space. If you did that, you would eliminate a huge portion of the local inventory. It means you need to know what to look for, how to read an inspection report, and when remediation, encapsulation, drainage work, or additional evaluation may be worth discussing. A crawl space finding is not automatically a deal breaker. It is a piece of due diligence. Basements are another adjustment. Full finished basements are not the norm here the way they are in some other parts of the country. They exist, but if a basement is a non-negotiable, you're searching a smaller slice of the Richmond market. Well and septic also come up more often as you move farther from the established suburban core. That is not a problem by itself. It simply means the property needs different inspections and a clearer understanding of how the systems work. Well water quality, septic condition, drain field location, maintenance history, and future replacement cost all deserve attention. Older systems are another piece. Parts of the city of Richmond and many close-in neighborhoods have older housing stock. You may see older HVAC, electrical, plumbing, roofs, windows, insulation, or drainage conditions. Those are not automatic reasons to walk away. They are reasons to understand the full ownership picture before you close. A home can look beautiful in the photos and still have major systems approaching the end of the useful life. That's why the inspection matters so much. I'm going to say this as clearly as I can. I do not recommend waiving the home inspection. Not on a resale, not on a new construction, not even when the market is competitive and someone tells you it might make the offer cleaner. I've never seen a perfect home inspection. Some reports are mostly minor. Others reveal issues that need serious attention. Either way, you deserve to know what you're buying before you own it. New construction buyers sometimes think the inspection is optional because the home is brand new. It's not. New homes can have issues too. I've seen problems with insulation, plumbing, HVAC, grading, drainage, framing details, and finish work. The advantage with new construction is timing. If something is found before drywall, before closing, or while the builder is still actively working on the property, it can be easier to address. A pre-drywall or framing inspection can catch issues before the walls are closed. A final inspection before closing gives you another layer of protection before you take ownership. If you skip those steps and discover a problem after closing, you may be dealing with warranty claims while living in the home. That's not the position you want in. For resale homes, the inspection is one of your most important important due diligence tools. In a buyer beware state, you need a clear understanding of the property before your contingency deadline passes. When time is short and the market is competitive, skipping the inspection may feel tempting. I would rather help you structure a strong offer in other ways than remove one of the best forms of protection. Before you write an offer on a Richmond home from out of state, there are several things I would want verified. Start with the locality. Know whether the home is in Henrico, Chesterfield, Hanover, Goochland, City of Richmond, or another surrounding area. Two homes can look similar online and still come with different taxes, services, school assignments, utility setups, commute patterns, and daily routines. If school assignment is part of your decision, verify the exact address through the official school district source. Do not rely on the listing description. Attendance boundaries can be address specific and they should be checked directly. Commute testing matters too. A map estimate is helpful, but it does not replace real context. If you're not fully remote, test the actual route at the time you would be driving it. A Sunday afternoon drive will not tell you the same thing as a weekday morning commute. Utilities should also be confirmed before you get too far into the process. Find out whether the home is on public water and sewer or well and septic. If it has well and septic, inspections should be part of the conversation. Internet service matters too, especially for remote workers. Do not assume the provider, speed, or reliability until the address has been checked. If there is an HOA, review the documents carefully. You want to understand the fees, rules, restrictions, reserves, rental policies if relevant, architectural guidelines, and anything else that affects how you can use the property. Flood risk also deserves attention. Richmond is not coastal Virginia, but we have rivers, creeks, drainage patterns, and low-lying areas that can create real risk in specific locations. Check the property against current flood information and talk through what that means for insurance, lending, and long-term ownership. Finally, understand the area around the home. The listing shows you the property. A good local tour should show you the setting. If you have not spent time in the neighborhood, I would rather show you the surrounding streets, nearby roads, and practical context before you decide to write. You're not just buying the house, you're buying the daily experience that comes with it. Here's what I want you to take from this video. Buying from out of state in Richmond is possible. It is common. With the right process, it can go very well. The buyers who struggle usually are not struggling because they are unqualified. They struggle because they are trying to make fast decisions without enough local information. That is how you end up writing offer after offer with no result. It's also how buyers miss inspection issues, misunderstand localities, choose the wrong area, or get surprised by a home that looked very different online. The buyer I mentioned at the beginning had already written 13 offers before we spoke. Once the strategy changed, the next offer worked. That is the difference local process can make. If you're buying in Richmond from out of state, I would love to help you avoid the expensive version of trial and error. You can get my free Richmond relocation guide through the link in the description or scan the QR code here. For a more personal conversation, grab a time on my calendar here. Let's make sure you understand the market, the house, the area, and the process before you write the offer. Thanks for watching. I'll put the next video up on the screen now.